Well, I know I had July 13th circled on my calendar to find out what the Bank of Canada was going to do. And I know Clinton Wilkins also had this day circled on his calendar. Hi, Clinton.
Hi, Sam. How are you?
Good. Clinton is with Clinton Mortgages, of course, Clinton Wilkins mortgage team. And Clinton, when I think about what today means for Canadians, we know that interest rate was hiked more than what we had anticipated. Economists had told us. What did you hear when you heard the Bank of Canada report earlier this morning?
I watched the press release live on the internet, and I was surprised with a 100 basis point increase. I think we all were, Sam. I have the date circled on my calendar a year in advance. We actually, in December of the previous year, we programmed all of the Bank of Canada announcements in my calendar. So we certainly were watching and very curious. Obviously, this is a big impact to Canadians. If you're in a variable rate mortgage product, if you have a home equity line of credit, if you have any unsecured debts that are tied to the prime rate, your cost of borrowing is going to go up. And I think everyone's feeling the pinch right now. I'm certainly cognizant of it. It's the cost of fuel and the cost of consumer goods obviously have gone up. And right now, it's about $55 per 100,000, depending on your amortization, that a customer would have an increase in their mortgage payment on a monthly basis. So, if a customer has a $500,000 mortgage, they're paying almost $300 a month more now today than they were really yesterday.
And Clinton, when I think about people, and I don't think this has ever happened to me in my life before, but certainly over the last month or so, knowing that this increase was coming, I found the conversations with my, friends and family went to mortgages. People say, "Oh, I'm renewing in a year," or "I'm renewing in 6 months." People very, very nervous about it. What was it like as someone working in the mortgage world leading up to today?
There's certainly a lot of conversation about mortgage lending in the media, also in our office, obviously, every single day. And it's not just variable rate mortgages that are more expensive. Fixed rate mortgages are really some of the highs that I've seen, and I've been in the industry for about 18 years. And I think that's something that we need to really, really think about. A lot of customers that take a variable rate mortgage, they took it because it was low, but they forget that it also is variable. And what goes up must come down. There was a really interesting article in the Financial Post today from an economist stating that every time, or almost every time, the Bank of Canada did kind of sharp increases in the key overnight rate, within 13 months, they started softening them again. So the Bank of Canada is really hoping for a soft landing here, and it's really going to depend on what happens with inflation. But my theory is, if a household has $300 less maybe now because of their increased cost in borrowing, maybe they'll spend $300 less on consumer goods, and will start, reducing inflation in turn. The federal government, also on the July 13th today in the USA, the Fed, they released their inflation numbers, and for June, it exceeded what happened in May. So we're certainly going to be keeping a close eye on what happens in the U.S. as well.
Mm-hmm. And this pandemic obviously has been very challenging on people.
It certainly has.
Do you think, Clinton, that there are people that, and I hate even asking this question, but that may not be able to just make this until that rate comes down?
Yeah, I think there certainly are some consumers in that case, and we certainly are talking to a lot of customers right now, and very educated customers, Sam, lawyers and doctors, and people that you wouldn't normally think would be, impacted so significantly by inflation, but everyone is. It doesn't matter what your socioeconomic standing really looks like. What we're really telling consumers, in most cases, it doesn't make sense to convert into a fixed. Right now, if you're going to convert into a fixed, it's going to be somewhere around 5%, which is much more than what the variable rate mortgage product is today. But the customers that are really feeling the pinch, we are doing some financial planning type things with them, and we're doing some midterm refinances to extend their amortization. So if you're in a situation where you have some equity in your home, we can refinance up to 80% of the market value. And even if you're not pulling any equity out, we can re-amortize your mortgage over a longer period of time. So some consumers are choosing to extend their amortizations to 20 or 25 or 30 years to reduce their cost of borrowing. It's not for the long term, Sam. It's a short-term solution until inflation starts coming under control and until the rate starts softening again.
And when does it come into effect? Is it today?
It is today for many lenders. So the Bank of Canada increased the key overnight rate by 100 basis points, which really means today for many lenders the prime rate will become 4.7. Some lenders will not start changing the cost of borrowing until the first of the following month, so August 1st. So you may have a 2-week buffer here, depending on which lender you're with. Every lender kind of treats it a little bit different. But as of today, the cost of borrowing would be 1% higher than it was yesterday.
Wow, it's such a big day for Canadians and for people that are looking to sort of, get a new mortgage. Let's say that's coming due in 6 months. Is it 6 months where they should start looking, Clinton? Is that your advice?
I think 6 months you should start getting your paperwork together and start thinking about what your intentions are. But 120 days is typically when we start the process. So we're talking to customers today that are renewing now in November. So I think that's something to think about. Some customers are choosing to do a midterm refinance or a refinance maybe early or renewal early to get a new term. In some cases, that makes sense. In some cases, it doesn't. I think it's kind of a little bit of a case-by-case basis, but a little bit of food for thought. This 100 basis point increase that the Bank of Canada did today was the biggest increase that they've done since 1998.
Wow. Wow. Well, I honestly, I could talk mortgages all day with you.
I mean, so could I. Luckily, I'm in the industry and I get to have some airtime once in a while.
There you go. And Clinton, of course, we love your show here on City News, Mortgages 101. It's an important show, especially, now more than ever. Clinton, thank you so much for your time.